So here we go. We are live. Let's do this.
That were submitted earlier and listen carefully to all the input here today. And it is truly appreciated that you took the time to stay with this case and provide me with input. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation and carefully considered all the facts of the case and the law, but my comments are actually going to be very brief because most of it's going to be in writing. I have a 22-page memorandum that is going to be attached to the sentencing order. And why am I doing it in writing? To emphasize the fact that determining the appropriate sentence in any case, and in this case, is a legal analysis. It's applying the rule of law to the facts of an individual and specific case. And that is why, as opposed to trying to being profound here on the record, I prefer that you read the legal analysis that explains how I determined the sentence in this case. What the case is, or what the sentence is not based on, is emotion or sympathy. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge the deep and tremendous pain that all the families are feeling, especially the Floyd family. You have our sympathies. And I acknowledge and hear the pain that you are feeling. I acknowledge the pain not only of those in this courtroom, but the Floyd family who are outside this courtroom and other members of the community. It has been painful throughout Hennepin County, throughout the state of Minnesota, and even the country. But most importantly, we need to recognize the pain of the Floyd family. I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases. And so, Mr. Chauvin, as to count one, based on the verdict of the jury, finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2, paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentenced for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You're granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis. Anything further from the state?
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody is currently holding him. Anything from the defense?
No, yeah.
All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.
So at the end of the day, Lou, that's 22 and a half years. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, he should have been maxed. I mean, how long is he going to stay in there anyhow?
Well, you know, considering I have a spouse who is in the system, he will be in isolation for 22 hours a day.
You know what? That actually is
For
worse.
the next 22 and a half years. Because if he's in population and he's a cop, he'll be killed.
Yeah, isolation is, yeah, it'll seem longer than 22 and a half, that's for sure.
Yeah. The maximum was 40. So basically, now the average is 12 to 15. Okay. That's the average. If Joe Schmo off the street is convicted for the same crime, they're looking at 12 to 15 years. The maximum is 40. This asshole got 22 and a half. The half is because of the time that was already served. Okay. I got to be honest, Lou. I'm of two minds about this. I have a bit of an uneasy feeling about it. On one hand, I think because of the heinousness of the crime and the position that this guy was in, that Derek Chauvin was in, not the physical position, the fact that he's wearing a badge, warrants for him to be kneecapped. It warrants for him to be nailed for 40 years. And then there's a part of me that says, you know what, don't be greedy. Look at it as a stepping stone. And sit there and say, okay, it wasn't everything we wanted or everything he deserved. But the fact that they actually convicted a cop of something, and it's a serious sentence. Let's not beat around the bush. 22 and a half years in a penitentiary is not an easy gig. Especially that he was a cop and he's going to be in isolation for like 22 hours a day, or even if it's 20 hours a day. All right, we'll give him 20 because it's easy. It's easy numbers that way. That part of me says, you know what, that's a good foundation to build on. So I'm not real sure how to react to this. Part of me is very happy. And part of me is very frustrated that it wasn't. It was basically half of the maximum. Now, like I told you off air before we got on, the average is 12 to 15. Okay.
Republicans and this group did not.
So I'm curious to hear how you feel about this. I'll be honest, I'm not real sure how I do. I'm not real sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a start, like you said. It's like because of his position, I would think he should have gotten more. I mean, he was never, like I said, he's had 17 other incidents before this. You know, every cop's going to have complaints. I don't care who it is.
Right.
But you know what? When every cop, I mean, if you take just our little town, how many of them have maybe more than one or two? They're all going to get it.
Yeah.
But when you have 17, how long's his career been? 14, 15 years? I don't know.
Like that, right?
So, you know, it's, and I'm not sure, I'd have to read what all the incidents were, but if I'm not mistaken, they were all kind of for roughing up, weren't they?
Yeah, and you know, him and George Floyd had a past, right? They did. They had a past. This guy was not. He was not the best of us, to say the least. Well, let's be perfectly honest. Neither of these guys were the best of us. However, neither of these guys deserve to be killed, right? and to be killed in a most heinous way. I mean, this guy was tortured for 9.5 minutes. And that's what it was. It was pure torture. To the point where he's talking to his dead mother. And he was tortured and slowly killed in front of an audience. That's about as heinous as you can get.
Yeah, and don't forget, if that young girl wouldn't have recorded it, he'd be on patrol right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. And it was a young girl. Right? And that's the other thing. Look at how many lives this affected. Look how it affected us. Right? This left an indelible mark upon everybody. And yeah, you're going to have people who go into different camps and say, well, you know, Chauvin got screwed and all this and all that, and they're fuck-ups. And then you're going to have the people who say, look, the sentence wasn't harsh enough. And, you know, I as a feeling, you know, be perfectly honest, I like I said, I kind of agree. You and I will never be in the position that he was in. And you and I will never be in a position that the people who are pissed off that it wasn't the maximum sentence will be in. But I still think 22 and a half years is a pretty good start. If nationally this amounts to something, right? Where this starts to set the standard, and it's going to continue. And this isn't just a one-off, because if this is a one-off, well, everybody in the country's been fucked. But if this is the start of something, I think I'll be all right with it. So I guess I have to hold off and just kind of wait and see what happens. To ultimately determine if I'm pissed off about this outcome or if I'm happy with this outcome. And apparently Master Grant won't be with us tonight. Although he might sneak in. He's been known to do that. So whenever you go to bed tonight, are you going to go to bed thinking, okay, I'm happy with this? Or are you going to go to bed thinking, boy, this better amount to something, or this whole thing's been shown. It wasn't worth anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the family statement was they were satisfied, and they basically said it's a start.
Yep.
You know, from, I guess, their point of view, from never getting anything, I guess it would be a start for them too.
During the whole thing, before the sentencing, you know, you heard from both families, right? The judge heard from both families. And you heard from Chauvin's mother, who never once acknowledged the pain and the suffering or anything that George Floyd's family had to endure. Didn't even mention his name. I found that to be quite striking.
Yeah, I didn't see her, but I heard about that, which, yeah, that tells me something too.
Yeah. That tells you that, you know what, he's the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
Nope.
That's what it tells you. Uh, she's going to lose her son for 22 and a half years. How old is Chauvin? In his 40s?
Yeah, he's actually, I think, early 40s.
Early 40s, right? So he's going to be in his early 60s when he gets out. Not knowing the family history, but there's a decent chance his mother's still going to be alive whenever he gets out. Decent chance. Not saying it's 100%, but I don't know how old she is either. But she can still talk to him. She can still go visit him. Now there'll be glass between them, and maybe they're talking through a telephone. Who the fuck knows how? I don't have any idea how their penal system's set up. But she will go to bed tonight knowing that her son is still alive. The same can't be said for George Floyd's mother. She's gone for the last 14 months or 13 months with the reality that her son is dead. You would think that there would be some acknowledgement of that, even if it's in passing. And there wasn't anything. You didn't lose your son, honey. You just been inconvenienced. Okay? George Floyd's mother lost her son. And she won't get him back. I found that very telling. I really did. I found that a little. I found it hard to show or to feel a whole lot of sympathy for Chauvin's mother. I'll be honest, I did. Maybe it's just me being a dick, but I found it hard to, because she didn't even acknowledge the pain and suffering from another mother.
Yeah, a mother would usually acknowledge another mother.
Right. She almost looked. It made me feel like she looks at her son as being a victim.
Yeah, you know how many, I'm sure there's a lot of victim playing. Well, we know that's the right's mojo there.
They're always
go-to.
yeah.
We're the victim. You cancel us, this and that.
They're always victims, right? My God, they're looking at critical race theory, and they're making themselves victims over that. How the fuck do you make yourself victims over critical race theory?
Oh, they're doing a good job of it.
How do you do that?
Did you see the protests in Loudon, Virginia?
Is that the one where the school board where the guy got arrested?
Yeah.
Did you happen to notice the demographic of everybody that was bitching, or was it just me?
Oh, you know what the demographic is.
Yeah, it's everything that's surrounding you and me.
Geez, isn't protesting that a symptom of systemic racism itself? Geez, what's the matter? You embarrassed what your forefathers did?
And then they make themselves and they project this victimhood onto their kids. And they're saying you're teaching my kids to be racist. No, we're teaching them to acknowledge the racism that already exists.
You know why they don't want that racism acknowledged? They're already losing a lot of the young people.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I think they have to admit a lot of stuff they don't want to admit. Right? But like I said, I told Master Grant and I had this discussion yesterday. And I said, my faith in Gen Z, not so much the millennials, but Gen Z, because they have gone their entire lives with this mixed bag, with this mixed races, this mixed sexes, this mixed everything. It's very difficult to convince them that somebody who doesn't look like them, doesn't act like them, or isn't the same sex as the other is very difficult to do to them. Because they look, everybody who's different than them, they grew up with. They're not different. You know, that's just so and so. I've known him all my life. That's just whatever the hell her name is. I've known her since I was 6. There's a big difference, and it feels to me like this is desperation. Like it's the last ditch effort.
Yeah, because their politics with fear and hate, and the way a lot of the young ones are, they're showing, they're trying to appeal to them in some strain, and all of a sudden, half of what they used to appeal to look at them and say, "What's the big deal? They're gay.
So what?
They're trans. Gay marriage. Who gives a fuck? They're people."
And they look at it like my vibe from them is I'm never going to get married. If they can figure out a way to do it and they can make it work, God bless. Who gives a fuck who they're marrying? They figured out a way to make it work. You know, it's a far different vibe, and it's a far different view of things that generations ahead of us had.
Yeah, I was at a meeting one night, and take older generations like me. A guy was all upset and venting because a guy somewhere made a pass at him. Because he thought I was gay, and he was really upset about it. And I said, "So?" He says, "Well, don't you find that offensive?" I said, "No, not really." I said, "Think about it." I said, "He thought you were friendly enough and nice enough. How did he know?" And I said, "Besides," I said, "you know what? If you're bisexual, you double your chance of a date on Saturday night." And he looked at me. He did not know how to answer. And he's like, and about a week later, he comes to me, he says, "You know what? You were right." I said, "So what's the big deal?" I said, you take it as a compliment and just nicely say, "I take thank you for the compliment, but I'm not
gay.
I'm not, I said, "What's so hard about that?" I said, "You're being respectable." And I said, "He'll appreciate it, and no big deal."
He might be a little embarrassed.
Yeah, but
you know
what? Just say, "You know what? I thank you, but
yeah, I'm straight." You know what, Lou? I've gotten to the age where if I get anybody excited, I'm counting that as a plus, right? I'm not saying I'm going to act on it. God knows I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm looking at it like, dude, you're okay. I'm straight. We're not getting, but you're all right.
Yeah. You say, "You know what? You have good taste, but."
Sorry, I'm spoken for. I'll take whatever I can get at this point. I'll tell you a good story. Well, no, I'll tell you off air. I don't want to tell you now. But I don't want to do that now. The person who is the subject, I don't want to do that to them. Because it wasn't me. Okay, so, but Lou, it's a great story. It's a great story. Okay, I mean it's historic. But I'll tell you, because like I said, I don't want to put them out, especially publicly. In other news, and we're going through this kind of quick. Rudy's down a license now, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And his son was ranting and raving on Twitter or somewhere else.
Did you see Michael Cohen's response to that?
No, I know he was on Jimmy Kimmel last night. I recorded it. I got to watch it.
His response to Jimmy Kimmel was, dude, who cares? Who cares how upset you are? Nobody cares.
Did you see somebody took, what's his name? Andrew Giuliani?
I think so, yeah.
On Twitter, somebody took his ranting and they superimposed him in a takeout window of Taco Bell from the outside with the Taco Bell sign in the background and cars honking so he gets out of the lane and keeps going. I was laughing so hard.
And isn't he trying to run for mayor of New York or something, some shit like that?
Well, I thought he was thinking of running for governor.
Was it governor? Okay, it was
Yeah.
governor. I know he was running for something. I don't know what the hell it was.
Did you know he had a job at the White House making like $100,000 a year?
No clue.
Do you know what his responsibility was?
I have no idea.
Making like $90,000 or $100,000 a year. It was literally coordinating Trump's tee times for golf.
No shit.
Yeah, I mean, and the staff. It was like sports coordinator. He made tee times for people to golf. He was getting $100,000 a year.
Oh my God. For real.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've been reading some of the stuff coming out about like Trump and General Milley and different things like that.
We're going to talk about that. We might as well start there. Go ahead.
That literally he wanted to know why the army could not just shoot the protesters. And then I think when that first started, he did not realize how serious Trump was. They said, no, we can't do that. Well, can't you just shoot him in the leg or the foot to show him we mean business? Like, no. Then he wanted him to do the Insurrection Act or something. And Milley said, they're protesting. And I guess he pointed to a picture of Abraham Lincoln in the room. Mm-hmm. He said, see that guy? He had to deal with an insurrection. You're dealing with political protests, nothing more. The army does not need to be called for this.
Wow.
And they were really worried if they would have gotten a little further on January 6th that Trump would have tried to pull the Insurrection Act and declared martial law.
Well, I got to believe he was this close a number of times. Yeah.
There was just a bunch of stuff coming out for some of the stuff he did, and it was like, people on the staff even, what would you do sitting there with somebody like that?
I would never be in that position.
And I guess Miller was egging him on, and I guess Milley got up and said, Stephen, shut your fucking mouth.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And then you have the asshole Tucker on Fox News calling him what, a pig and a loudmouth last night?
And did you see the response? I forgot who the hell responded to him. It was another general who said, did you see the marks on his right sleeve? Those are, 5 years in combat?
Yeah, every mark 6 months, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. It was stupid because they went all the way up his fucking arm. Right? What did you do? What was it that Billy said, right? All he said was, look, I read Mao Zedong, I've read Karl Marx, I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what's wrong with having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? What? What's wrong with that?
Well, you know what's wrong with it? Because he's educated and they don't like that.
They don't want educated.
And geez, if you educate how many people, you know, this rolls into, did you see what Ron DeSantis did? I don't know if you talked to Master Grant about that last night.
Did not.
Um,
Master Grant was going on a bunch of tangents last night.
do you realize that DeSantis signed into law, which I can't see it holding, that supposedly these people going into college in Florida have to state whether they're liberal, conservative, and this and that? Isn't that, let me see your papers? That's fascism to me.
Yeah, I can't.
Because they're mad that people going into college are coming out liberals.
Yeah, imagine that. The more educated you are, the more liberal you are. Who would have thought?
Yeah, this is what we're facing, and what some of the ones up in Congress are failing to see when it comes to, you know, a slow-moving insurrection. How long have you heard that? A slow-moving coup.
Yeah, and that's what's happening.
You got a bunch of clowns that want a theocratic autocracy. Simple as that.
On the plus side,
The Handmaid's Tale come true.
on the positive side, Biden agreed to a bipartisan infrastructure deal after meeting with a group of senators at the White House. Biden said, "We have a deal," endorsing the roughly $1 trillion infrastructure plan by a group of 10 senators. Under this thing, the bipartisan package would include about $579 billion, so roughly half, in new spending to overhaul the nation's transportation, electric, utilities, water, and broadband infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Senate has started to work on a budget resolution that would allow Democrats to pass a second, much larger package of spending and tax increases unilaterally. Schumer said that the Senate will move forward with both the agreement and the reconciliation bill. Pelosi said the House Democratic leaders won't take up the bipartisan agreement until the Senate approves the package through reconciliation. So it looks like at least something is moving in a positive direction. Does it seem that way to you, or you think somebody's going to throw a wrench into this shit?
Well, McConnell's trying to throw a wrench, but I think that if you look at all the polling, the 10 senators that are saying, yeah, this is a deal, I think they're finally realizing what percentage of Republicans even are like, yeah, we need to do this. You know, and you've seen what? A pedestrian walkway collapsed in D.C. the other day, right down onto 295. How nobody was killed, I do not know on that road.
Yeah, it's an act of God.
A building collapsed in Miami yesterday.
Yep.
Which is just, you know, that's infrastructure too, but it just tells you that, you know, I kind of know why that collapsed from what I've read on it, you know, right now. You know, so, and they know how many people are in favor of this. I mean, overall polling on it's what, 68%?
Something like that, 68, 70%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty high.
It's pretty popular.
You know, how many people in Mayberry would like broadband?
I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say everybody.
Anybody that has a young kid.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you have a kid out here, there's some areas where how did they do the schoolwork the last year on probably dial-up? I mean, seriously.
Well, you know what would happen is they would have these vans that would travel around, right? That had a satellite connection, and they were able to. That was basically they would turn this van into a hotspot, so people could jump on that connection and do their homework or whatever. I saw a lot of that way out in the boonies, even worse, even out further than we are. But imagine having the ability for broadband nationwide. There's no downside to that, Lou. I mean, there's
Why would anybody be against that?
yeah. I don't understand it. There literally is no downside to that. In fact, if you jump on board with that and you push it, you solidify your position because now you can take credit for this.
I was laughing. I was talking to a friend yesterday. I hadn't talked to him, and we were talking about that. And he says, "Let me tell you a story." So I remember this when I was young. This would have been in the 60s. So he says, he said we might have been 10, 11, 12 years old. And he said, think about this in the context of the broadband. I can remember sitting at a family thing, he said, with my uncles and my dad, and they were talking about putting seat belts in cars, mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, my uncle and my other uncle were like, well, who would be against seat belts when it's going to save lives? And he says, there was somebody there that says, just think how much it's going to cost the car companies. That's like $5 a car. The same conservative back ass mindset, just in a different generation.
Doesn't change, does it?
No. He says, I'll never forget that. He says, why it stuck with me, I don't know.
$5 a car.
It's going to cost them $5 a car to put those in there.
Wow. Wow. Back in the day, I remember and I know because my old man bought one, a Chevy Nova, right? Which was a typical Chevy. So you're talking 74,
Okay.
right? Ish. And there was a number of years, but 74 is a good barometer. So, and it was, I don't know. Let's take a Sean Darcy, $4,000. Okay, for a brand new one back in 74, which I don't think I'm very far off.
Probably not.
Right? I don't think I'm very far off. So it's $4,005 instead of just 4,000. Do you really think they're going to care?
Yeah, but that's just an example of the mindset. It just baffles me.
It's the mindset, right? And the only way you make that argument is because you have no other argument to make. Because that argument is about as lame can be. Right? It's as weak can be. But that's the only argument you have, so that's the one you're going to make. It's stupid and it's silly. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is according to Politico, is very concerned about the conspiracy theory that Trump will be reinstated as president in August. We're just going to keep kicking this can down the road. In a private briefing with House Committee on Homeland Security, the department's top counterterrorism official, told members that it was monitoring discussions of the topic among online extremist communities, that the department was concerned the false narrative that the election was rigged would trigger a violence. Trump, meanwhile, has been telling acquaintances that he expects to be reinstated by the end of summer. Why the fuck won't this guy just go away? He lost.
You know what? I was going to say, who keeps giving him airtime, and we know who does.
Fox Entertainment.
Fox Entertainment, who? Bongino, OAN, Newsmax. All they're doing is keeping that base pumped up.
And they're keeping that base pumped up, Lou. And they're making money hand over fist doing it.
Did you realize 30% of the voting public thinks the election was stolen?
Yeah. And how much of that 30% is paying that subscription fee every month? I'm willing to bet 29 out of 30%. I'll be silly and I'll be very soft and say 25 out of that 30% are paying that subscription fee every fucking month. so they can be told you were. They lied to you. You're a victim every month. I got to be honest. Rupert Murdoch was brilliant, but his vision was a little short-sighted. For those of you who don't know, Rupert Murdoch is the guy responsible for Fox Entertainment, for Fox News. To put it into perspective, to let you know how shady this whole thing was, Murdoch is Australian, and he was granted citizenship to the U.S. by Ronald Reagan 2 months after he applied for citizenship and created Fox News. That should tell you all you need to know about Rupert Murdoch. What he didn't count on was the Newsmaxes, and was it OANs of the world, who want to go even more right than what he's willing to do. Even he has his limits. Lou, he opened a Pandora's box, and we let him do it. Because whenever Reagan did this, who to me is still the biggest evil, the worst president we've ever had. He fucked us. He fucked everybody.
You know what? The biggest, you look at Trump and say, you know what, he's an asshole, but he was a product of the Reagan trickle down.
Yes.
So was Bush.
Yeah.
And we thought Bush was bad. And you know what? It was just that the propaganda and the so-called trickle down, the Southern strategy, you roll it all into one. And that's why Russia was able to influence that election. It was divisive politics as far as race, and they knew it.
And they counted on it. They banked on it. Right? And they're doing it again.
How many more cycles till there's not going to be enough sway to do it?
Yeah, what happens then? How much more do you want to restrict?
Well, an example of how powerful that right-wing organization is, they act like a good example is, why did Kamala Harris bow to me and go to the border?
There was a lot of pressure on her to do so.
The border's been that way through Trump, through Obama, through Bush. Name your president.
Right.
All right. The border's been like that. I was talking to a guy the one day, he's like, oh, we got to get the border fixed. I see, he says, and they're blaming us. I said, it was us. I said, we're the one that fucked up 5 countries in Central America with the CIA that created the drug cartels and everything. And he just looked at me. I said, go look it up. I said, what do you think? This magic happened overnight?
It's funny. I always tell people the same shit. Whenever I tell them something and they look at me like I'm an idiot, I just tell them the same thing. Just go Google it. Just go Google it. Go look. Go find out for yourself.
I said, why do you think those countries are in turmoil? I said, because we tried to rob them.
Yeah. And this is
I said, why do you think I said, why do you think the Mideast is so screwed up? A lot of it was our fault.
Oh, well, not all of it, but boy, I tell you what, we made our names known.
We made our name. It wasn't all of us, but we did it. The British had a good hand in it too.
But yeah, they we made our names known. They felt our presence, and you're right. So did the British. Yeah, they did. And well, it was the oil. That's all it was. That's the only reason any of us got involved in a fucking desert, and wars and misdealings and distrust for thousands of years. Why do we get involved? because that's where fucking oil is.
Well, why do you think Venezuela is the way it is? Then you hear socialism. We're the ones that screwed that up because they wouldn't play fair with the oil pricing.
It's all about this goddamn oil over and over and over again. And whenever we find a way out of it, no one wants to do it. No one wants to do it. Look, we're getting our way out of it. Look at the pickup Ford is making, right? And yeah, the range isn't ideal, but Lou, it's far better than it was even 5 years ago.
I was talking to somebody about that. I said, you know what? If I was a contractor that was local, like Newcastle, that range would not play a factor.
No, it wouldn't.
I said, you think about it. For a contractor, I said, that is a great truck for a handyman. Because you go somewhere, you don't have to carry a generator with you. You could plug into the bed to run power tools.
Yeah.
Anything you need real quick, you go home at night and you plug it in.
Plug it in. Just plug it in when you go home. How many people plug in their phones?
He said it's 300-mile range. I said, if you're in this region right here, it's perfect.
Dude, if you're in this region and you're traveling, well, let's take half of it. It'd be 150 miles, because then you got to come back 150 miles, right? So there's your 300. Think about where you're going for 150 miles.
Guess what? It takes you to Cleveland and back.
Yeah. No contractor here is going to Cleveland.
No. Takes you to Erie and back.
No contractor here is going to Erie. Maybe once.
It takes you to Du Bois and back.
And nobody's doing that either.
Takes you to Pittsburgh twice.
Right? They may do that.
They
we
may
only
do
that
that.
once a day.
Right.
Nobody's doing that. No contractor's doing that. Why do you think the Postal Service, Biden's plan for the Postal Service is to have all electric vehicles? Because they're not traveling 150 miles. There's no way in hell they're doing that. Hell, half of your postal carriers go someplace, park, and walk, even in the winter.
Yeah, in the city they do. Let's park. They carry what? Probably up one block, back the second block back, or 2 blocks up and 2 blocks back, then move.
Even in the wintertime, every day they do that. Doesn't matter the weather. They do it every day. You got to be silly not to, even at the 300-mile range, with the limited battery capacity that we have now. You'd be silly not to be doing this shit. It'd be silly not to. It's stupid. It's actually stupid that this is even a subject of debate. To finish it up, Pelosi announced the creation of a select committee to examine the January 6th attack on the Capitol, saying, quote, "It is imperative that we establish the truth of that day and ensure that an attack of that kind cannot happen again." Pelosi said the investigation will take 2 paths, one looking at the root causes of the attack and the other looking at the failures in security of the Capitol. She's doing this in response to the Senate Republicans blocking the creation of an independent bipartisan commission last month. She has to do something, I guess, right, Lou?
Yeah.
It's not ideal. It's not what anybody wanted. How do you think those results, their findings, are going to be received?
Oh, they'll be whining about it, but you know what? They had the chance for bipartisan. I guess guilty people don't like to be investigated.
I guess not. So whenever they come back and say, well, this was all Democratic things, she can come back and say, well, look, first of all, we asked you to be on board with this. You chose not to. Second of all, you want to do it again? Let's do it again. This time you can be involved. Right?
Yeah. That's it.
The taint that's going to be on this is sickening because, let's face it, there's no point. There should be a taint on this, right? The Republicans should have been involved. They chose not to. And I'm not blaming Pelosi. I'm not blaming the Democrats for this. But they should have they should have been a part. The Republicans should have been a part of this. And I think it's going to be very difficult to get rid of the spin that's going to take place because of the powerful OANs and Newsmaxes and
Well,
Fox.
do you realize the spin they've been doing since the last month because of this? Have you seen that? Well, they were tourists. They didn't. They weren't really violent. There were no guns, and they're trying to reframe it. It's the same thing as the South reframing the Civil War. It was Northern aggression and it was states' rights.
I find it hard to believe. I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. I find it astonishing to believe that there's going to be a huge percentage of the population, I'm not saying a majority, I'm saying a huge percentage, who's going to look at what these fuck-ups say and agree with them.
Oh, I know.
That's frightening. That's sad. That's sad.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's what's going to happen.
It is. It is. Hopefully, better minds. I certainly hope so. I don't see it happening, but I hope so.
Well.
Well, what do we say we call it a day?
Yep, I'm going to bail out to a Friday night I haven't been to for a while.
Oh yeah. Well, you're a little behind.
I got the in-laws coming in this weekend, so I got to go get a straight mind.
Yeah.
Because the funeral is Monday, so we got all these visiting.
Imagine living beside them. Never mind. With that note, I don't want to hold you up anymore. I feel bad we've gone on this long.
Nah, no big deal.
We will be back next Thursday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Until then, folks, thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody next week.